It starts right now. Good evening. I'm Chris Thomas. Thanks for joining us. Right now, we are waiting to see if the governor will sign a possible game changer for the state's gig economy. Assembly Bill 5 could force app-based companies to treat contractors as employees. ABC 10's Giacomo Luca is following this developing story. He joins us live. And Giacomo, 1 million California workers impacted here. This is a big deal.
It certainly is, and while it could affect, whether or not workers are classified as employees or independent contractors, it might just all seem like semantics to both you and I, but to companies like Uber and Lyft, it could have serious bearings that could cost those companies millions and millions of dollars. I spoke with a gig economy expert who breaks down what it could mean for you.
The things that analysts predict is that there could be as much as 30% increase in consumer fares. So if you're trying to have DoorDash delivered or take a cab after dinner, take an Uber or a Lyft, we could see those prices go up 30%, which helps make sure that people are getting paid fairly, but then you have a direct impact on the consumer.
Now, AB 5 could require app-based companies to treat their workers as employees, which would require those businesses to offer hourly minimum wage, paid sick leave, and unemployment insurance. That would cost companies a lot, said gig economy expert Ryan Vett. It could also lead to shrinking profits and downsizing of some of these bigger companies.
There's a lot of things at play that's going to affect everyone, no matter which way this goes, when it ends at the governor's desk.
Now, I've spoken with drivers and riders, and there are many people on both sides of the fence when it comes to this bill. And while the governor has shown support for AB 5, his office is saying they're still negotiating with ride-sharing companies over this. But if the bill passes, Uber's chief legal officers say they're willing to go to bat, telling reporters earlier today that, quote, because we continue to believe drivers are properly classified as independent and because we'll continue to be responsive to what the vast majority of drivers tell us they want most, flexibility, drivers won't be automatically reclassified as employees even after January of next year. Now, earlier today, Uber and Lyft announced that they dropped a combined $60 million into a campaign. That fund would go towards a 2020 ballot initiative, and they say that would be they would be asking voters there to support some pro-driver policies. However, we don't know exactly what would be in that ballot initiative. Chris?
And Giacomo, do we have any indication of where the governor is leaning on this one? I know some have suggested he seems to be supporting the measure here.
Well, the governor's office has been very clear that the governor is supporting it, but as I said earlier, they're still in negotiations. We'll just have to see what they come up with in the next coming days. Okay,
our Giacomo Luca reporting live for us. Giacomo, we thank you. Well, meanwhile, officials have confirmed
Any minute we could find out whether Governor Gavin Newsom will sign a first-in-the-nation plan to give people like Uber and Lyft drivers more protections and benefits. The Assembly passed this bill this morning, sending it to the governor's desk. So Giacomo Luca has been following this controversial bill, and he's live for us outside the Capitol today. Giacomo, Uber said that today, even if this passes, they're not going to be following this.
Well, that's right, Madison. They say they want to find out what things are going to look like come January of next year. That is, if the governor signs this bill, which could be a game changer for app-based companies like Uber and Lyft, as well as their drivers and their customers. So here's how that's going to happen. According to this bill, Assembly Bill 5 would set guidelines on how workers are classified, such as either independent contractors or employees. Companies like Uber, Lyft, and Amazon, they rely on so-called independent contractors as drivers, but AB 5 could force these companies to treat their workers as employees, requiring companies to offer protections like an hourly minimum wage and unemployment insurance. App-based companies argue that this bill could increase their costs, which would ultimately be passed down to customers and take away from the flexibility of drivers to pick their own hours. I spoke with some Uber and Lyft customers who are on both sides of the issue.
We need to regain this possibility for the people to earn a living, and today this is not possible at all, and maybe that's not fair for sure.
First of all, it's changing everything. The reason why it's working so well now is because the way it's set up, so why change something if it's working?
Now, meanwhile, ride-sharing companies are planning to take a stand. Uber's chief legal officer, Tony West, He told reporters today that, quote, because we continue to believe that our drivers are properly classified as independent and because we'll continue to be responsive to what the vast majority of drivers tell us they want most, which is flexibility, drivers won't automatically be reclassified as employees even after January of next year. Now, Uber and Lyft, they say that they've dropped a total of $60 million combined for a campaign into a ballot measure that would go on the 2020 ballot. What that's going to look like is still unclear just yet. Madison.
All right, Giacomo, thank you so much. Live for the Capitol, and of course, we'll keep you updated on what happens with this bill. Now turning to the weather, there could be some